guests, we have with us one very special guest who I'd like to specially welcome. That is Honorable Justice Adil Omar Sharif, who is the Deputy Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Egypt. Honorable Justice Sharif has attended
Recording in progress.
13 Chief Justices conferences over the years organized by City Montessori schools. So apart from being the Deputy Chief Justice of the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt, he is also a most distinguished visiting professor of law at the Tehran School of Law. And throughout his career, he has been affiliated with a number of academic institutions, including the Human Rights Law Center of the College of Law, DePaul University in Chicago, the Human Rights Center of the University of Essex, UK, the Federal Judicial Center in Washington, D.C., the Faculty of Law at McGill University in Montreal, and others. He has also, and the reason why I'm wanting to warmly welcome is on a personal note. Justice Sharif has been a staunch supporter of our efforts to bring judges together on a common platform over the years. He has advised us in the running of conferences, both the Chief Justices Conference and other international events that City Montessori School runs, and has been a great supporter and has indeed invited and brought many other judges from around the world to join our conference over the years. So, sir, we extend a particularly warm welcome to you as our oldest supporter and friend here today. So, without further ado, I will hand back to the compares and looking forward very much indeed to a very important session this afternoon.
For your opening address and for highlighting the importance of the 17th of July, the World Day for International Justice for everybody around the world. The aim of the day is to promote international criminal justice, and as a way of supporting the work of the ICC, as you rightly mentioned, the International Criminal Court, with the aim to unite everyone who wants to support justice as well as promote victims' rights. Thank you very, very much, sir. I'd now like to invite the first speaker for the session, Honorable Mr. Justice Kazim Bekov Almaz Salmur Bekovich, Judge, Bishkek City, Kyrgyz Republic, for his talk. Sir, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before I get started, first of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to City Montessori School, which organized this event. And second, I would like to thank organizers for the invitation to this wonderful event. A lot happened in 2020. The main change that made the biggest adjustments to public life was the pandemic associated with the spread of a new coronavirus infection. Public, political institutions, and of course, the judicial system were forced to adjust their work in a short time, guided by the main criteria and values that have become the life, health, and safety of every person. The judicial system of Kyrgyz Republic didn't stop its work and continued to carry out justice at a high level throughout the entire period and in compliance with reasonable deadlines for legal proceedings. The pandemic caused by the spread of the COVID-19 virus infection has become a serious test of the strength and adaptability of state institutions in unpredictable and rapidly changing conditions. The judicial system of the Kyrgyz Republic faced a difficult task to ensure the realization of citizens' rights to protect life and health, while restricting the right to access to justice was unacceptable. In the spring of 2020, during the introduction of the most stringent restrictive measures of isolation, the Supreme Court of the Kyrgyz Republic took measures to change the work of the courts. Remote reception of citizens and remote work of court employees was organized. Regarding criminal cases against persons in places of detention, taking into account the terms of their detention, remote court sessions were started for the first time in our country. The realization of the right to judicial protection of citizens, political sanitary, epidemiological situation has become possible thanks to the video conferencing. The current level of equipment court in Kyrgyzstan has allowed courts to consider a large number of cases using video conferencing systems. Courts didn't suspend the consideration of cases and materials of an urgent nature related to the restriction of rights and freedoms, security, election or change of a preventive measure, some others. It became obvious that the new conditions are not temporary. We are faced with the task of developing new formats of implementation which will enable governments to manage external factors to ensure the accessibility, transparency, and equal justice, protection of citizens' rights and freedoms. Today, the expansion and development of remote justice is coming to the fore before the judicial system of the Kyrgyz Republic. During the pandemic, the holding of court sessions became possible thanks to video conferencing systems. In Kyrgyzstan, there is also a need to introduce a web conferencing system using biometric authentication technology for trial participants by face and voice. This system allows individuals to participate in the trial from anywhere. A full-fledged transition to electronic document management and the development of e-justice capabilities is also becoming relevant. Currently, electronic justice is provided through an automated information system, which provides electronic document management in criminal, civil, and administrative proceedings. However, it's necessary to integrate this system with other information systems, with other state information systems, with the possibility for the judge to get access, including to various state resources. This is necessary in order for the judge to have the opportunity to instantly verify the information provided by the parties during the consideration of cases. Such a unified information system will speed up the judicial process and will work for the effectiveness of justice. Summing up all the above, we can conclude that justice as a whole has been somewhat transformed during the pandemic. And quarantine restrictions on the justice system have had not only negative, but also positive impact. New quarantine living conditions have given a new impetus for further development and accelerated implementation of audio-video conferencing systems. The work on the conditions of pandemic has shown that the continuous activity of the judicial system, its efficiency and adaptability to the conditions directly depend on the use of the latest information technologies in justice. Thank you for your attention. This is my short information regarding the justice in pandemic situation, pandemic conditions. And if you have questions, please, I'm ready to answer your questions.
Mr. Justice Kasimbekov Almaz Salmurbekovich, for that wonderful explanation of how the justice system in Kyrgyzstan, in the Kyrgyz Republic, evolved and how the course of justice was accelerated to ensure speedy redressals of problems. And we need to learn, I think each of us here will take back certain lessons as to how we must, even in times of crisis, ensure availability of the rights of individuals in order to ensure justice and peace in the land. Thank you so much.
We would probably have a question answer session maybe at the end of this session after all the speakers have done their presentations. So thank you, and we would invite the next speaker, Mr. Divino Roberto Verissimo, President OPA Brazil. You're very
I'm sorry,
welcome.
can I say?
Pardon, sir, we couldn't get what you were saying.
Hello.
Dear colleagues, dear colleagues, I want to apologize. Suddenly my wife got sick early in the morning. So she is in hospital now, and the doctors do not know whether it's flu, just regular flu, or whether it's coronavirus. So I would like to stay with you the whole day, but because of this situation, I have to leave the conference. So if you let me, please excuse me.
Thank you, sir.
And let me leave.
A valuable time despite that crisis in your family. We would pray for the well-being of your wife, and we are so pleased that we could have you for those few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for understanding.
Means a lot to us, sir. Means a lot to everybody at City Montessori School. Thank you very much, sir, for your time and contribution.
Thank you. Thank you for your understanding once again. Thank you very much.
May we please invite Mr. Divino Roberto Verissimo, President OPA Brazil. Sir, please take the mic.
Okay. Thank you for your attention. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to all of you, my cordial greetings. I thank you and hope to honor the trust placed by the City Montessori School in me. I am here today to present to you my reflections on the justice, peace, security, and welfare of the world during the pandemic. And these two observations made by CMS in its invitation constitute the axis of the reflections that I will present to you. The first, that since the outbreak of the pandemic, the justice, peace, security, and welfare of the world are seriously threatened. The second, that it is imperative to regulate international conduct to create an atmosphere of only and global peace as a guarantee of a security future for humanity and its generation. I see in this our elements to consider: change, regulation, the way forward, and the pandemic. And maybe this takes more than 5 minutes. The first element, the change in the cultural order and basic national governance, which is based on the economic and military pillars of the world. A cultural order based on these pillars prioritizes competition, war, market, profit, and power of territory and over national interest agendas and the industrial control of international relations. The word to base that these pillars of peace, justice, security, and well-being be added to it. I speak therefore of the change from this basic order to a global international order of permanent peace, security, and well-being of the people, states, and nations of the planet. I speak of the transition from the economic, industrial, and world war order to the social order of world justice and peace. from the economic and military state of straighting power, competition, and national government to a planetary state. The multipolar Earth state based on the respect and connection of all people, states, and nations to the possible universal relations of justice, peace, and security, mediated with common human rights, normally called the democratic states of law. The second element is this. Excuse me. With the perspective of order transition, there is already a framework for regulating international conduct to create an atmosphere of unity and global peace. This framework has been created and legitimated. It is set up approximately 102 years as a framework of world order put into effective for the public judgment of nations and their peoples since the creation of the League of Nations. His development was then integrated into the creation of development of the UN as its organization mediator in international relations. And its structure of order is based in the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which integrating these elements of the global framework of direction for member nations. One, the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, and the International Covenant of Economic and Social Rights, which constitutes the International Charter of Human Rights. Two, the declarations of the United Nations Conference of the Human Environment. Three, the Convention on the Rights of the Children. Four, other United Nations treaties and conventions associated with issues of peace, security, and environment, and human well-being of life on or the planet. Five, a statement by NGOs and unofficial authorities contained in documents such as the Each Charter and Constitution for the Federation of the Planet Earth, currently circulating around the world seeking global ratification. Proof of the life of this regulation is that all actions of order and sustainable development in current life revolve around these elements, such as globalization, natural and positive law, religious law, sustainability, climate change, proliferation of nuclear energy and clean energy, cyber security, space security, and the health of the planet. Therefore, the greatest challenge facing the justice system is no longer justice to regulate or judge international relations. The greatest challenge is to assent these elements in progress in the socio-cultural system of power, justice, and current human relations, personal, family, community, religions, and of state and governments. Third elements. This is more complex than the judging and regulating. It is to create an alliance with all civilizations, establish the order of this transition of the order, and the security of its development on a transnational scale, global, considering that only civilizations and then families can, together with the world's legal, educational, and economic system, print and spread this order in the body and life of all peoples and nations on earth and their generation on and off the planet. It is aspects that, as responsible for catalyze and manage the principles and divisions of human and national rights, the legal sectors of peoples and nations will be the facilitator of this alliance, the promoter of human social integration, of the ordering of the poverty and health, to the necessary balance measures for the safety and well-being of life and the planetary environments. The fourth element, the pandemic, that, and this context, as paradoxical as it may seem, the pandemic has brought to light the reality that the greatest threat we face today and in the next years are not the pandemics as the COVID-19. The major threat is only inquiry of the addition of gestion of world based on industrial economy, competition, profit, market, power, and productive or consumption and social control. Look at the science that is signing. Looking at the signing of socialization and industrial education in the world. Everything is gaming, competition, war, corruption, productive, or price. The world economic power system has additional people, students and government to the exercise of competition, health, and power, and placed itself in the position of superior of justice, work, socialization, education, and health. And its activities don't want to get out of this condition, the condition of being at the force and the force of political, military, policy, financial, social, juridical, and interreligious control of the world. A control they exercise precisely in the name of prosperity, science, and salvation. And the holders of this addition do not want to leave the sphere of public control of health, politics, military, and religion in the world. A control, excuse me, I repeat, a control they exercise precisely in the name of prosperity, science, and saving. And in my observation, the City Montessori School is important elements for produce this alliance with the civilizations. Thank you for all. Thank you for our attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for spelling aloud your concerns, especially in today's turbulent times of the pandemic when the entire world and its population is sort of victimized at the hands of this virus. You talked about your concerns pertaining to security and welfare of the people. And what was most important and has been a takeaway for all of us who've been listening to you very carefully is the understanding of how important it is to create an atmosphere of global unity and peace to be able to combat a crisis of this nature. Thank you so very much, sir, for effectively highlighting the importance of world unity and peace. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
I would now like to invite our next speaker, Honorable Ms. Justice Mirsada Zindo, Judge Court of Bosnia and Herzegovina. She happened to attend our conference, the International Conference of the Chief Justices of the World, hosted by City Montessori School for 2 years prior to this one, 2017 and 2018. She attended in person. Ms. Justice Mirsada Zindo.
Unmute.
Kindly unmute yourself, ma'am. Kindly unmute yourself, ma'am. Your mic, yes.
Yes, you can. Okay. Good afternoon, and please allow me at the very beginning to greet all the participants of the conference on behalf of the Court of Bosnia and Herzegovina and express my gratitude for being once again part of this event that is being held under special condition this year as well. I'm always happy to accept invitations for participation at international debates that I find extremely important, and I'm confident that after such debates, we all gain experience that we can share with our colleagues in the institutions we represent. This year's conference takes place in challenging times, and I look forward to hearing the thoughts of all the participants on the topic that has global implications. We are all aware that human rights are universal, with one of the fundamental human rights being the right to health, which is equal to the right to life, and everyone should have access to health care regardless of their social or economic status. This is imperative. At the beginning of the crisis caused by the COVID-19 virus, we all witnessed that countries, each within the scope of their capacity, addressed the issues of the pandemic seriously, but that doesn't mean that they have done enough. Reasons are many, but they most certainly cannot be attributed to the lack of will or capacity of individual countries. The manner in which the countries responded was a reflection of their realistic possibilities depending on their economic position. It is therefore no surprise that underdeveloped countries have been affected by the pandemic much worse, primarily due to being affected by the pandemic, primarily due to lack of funds, to control and prevent diseases, which is the reason why they were unable to rise to the challenges of the pandemic. We saw that in certain parts of the world, health institutions did not have even the basic means of work, which makes it clear that the pandemic caused them additional problems. They were left to their own devices. Unfortunately, the pandemic has exposed the absence of international solidarity and care for humanity, and this solidarity was only present in theory from the very beginning. We all know that states and governments are those that are supposed to make sure that human rights are respected, but this crisis has showed us that not all the countries can give such guarantees in the same manner, despite the fact that it is their obligation. Due to this fact, as well as the fact that human rights are universal, we believe that a higher degree of global solidarity is necessary to mitigate the adverse consequences of the pandemic, which knows no boundaries. We also witnessed that in such challenging times, national governments gave priority to their own citizens. without realizing that this was a global problem, the burden of which needed to be shared in order to reduce the differences between the developed and underdeveloped countries. However, it became clear over time that such an approach to the crisis was leading nowhere, and that only by working together could the global crisis be addressed adequately. Inequalities in access to health, as a consequence of inequalities in life, can be reduced only with the help of international solidarity mechanism, ensuring that everyone has a dignified life. At this point, I would like to draw your attention to the vulnerable groups in time of crisis: children, women, persons with disabilities that are often on the margins. The challenges that considerably disrupt the society as a whole have a strong impact on children and their future. Only through joint efforts can we ensure that children remain healthy and safe and pursue their education. Refugees and migrants that often have no access to health care are especially vulnerable. Humanitarian needs must not be forgotten during the pandemic. It is therefore necessary on the global level to set legal standards, adopt a universal document that every country would be obliged to implement through its legislation, or for the purpose of ensuring that fundamental human rights are respected. Today, more than ever, we need a document recognizing international solidarity in the global sphere, because we are living in the time of global insecurity. With a growing gap between the rich and the poor, it is the task of the global community to achieve equality, stability, and safety in providing healthcare while observing the principle of non-discrimination. I thank you all for your attention, and I look forward to the presentation of other participants. Thank you.
Honorable Justice uh, for that illuminating address where you talked about the importance of maintaining human rights for everyone, not just supporters of the world, because this divide would divide the underdeveloped and the developed nations more. The divide would be created. And it's not in isolation that we can do this. We have to come together in order to explore national solidarity. And we must look at a joint document. I think that was a very important point that you highlight. We must look at a document to ensure the safety of the most vulnerable sections of society, children, women, and women. Thank you so much for drawing our attention to that point. And it's now time to invite the video message from Honorable Mr. Justice A. Muthuwa. And I ask Mr. Sandeep to
It's a proud privilege and honor to introduce Honorable Justice A. Mindua, who is a Congolese judge and has been appointed in the International Criminal Court in the year 2015 for a year of 9 years. For a term of 9 years, most recently in the month of April in 2021, he has been appointed, as rather promoted, as the Vice President of the International Criminal Court. So in today's ceremony, he is the most suitable guest because the World Day for International Justice is being celebrated all over the world on 17th July in order to strengthen the International Criminal Court. Justice Mindua has attended our conference in 2017, 2018, 2019, and through online 2020. He is a professor at the universities of Kenashka and Geneva. He teaches public international law and international criminal law. And it's great honor and privilege for the CMS family that he has very kindly recommended one of the students of CMS Rajajipuram branch last year, and that's why she got admitted in one of the most prestigious university of Geneva. Hats up to you, sir, for this honor. And now we would like to show your video to the audience. Thank you so much.
By Judge Antoine Kesembe Mindou. International justice, also known as International Justice Day or International Criminal Justice Day, as proclaimed on 1st June 2010 by the ICC Review Conference in Kampala, Uganda, to remember the creation of the International Criminal Court, ICC. Indeed, this day marks the anniversary of the adoption on 17th July 1998 in Italy of the Rome Statute, the founding treaty of the ICC, which entered into force on 1st July 2002, and which seeks to protect people from genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crime of aggression. Today, 123 states are parties to the Rome Statute. The ICC is clearly a revolutionary advance in the history of the mankind. It is really the first time in the history of humanity to have such a court. Indeed, since the ancient times through the Middle Age, wars have been total and without mercy. And of course, human rights were almost never respected. Hence, after the creation of the international military tribunals of Nuremberg and Tokyo, the ad hoc criminal tribunals created by the United Nations Security Council and the other special hybrid or internationalized courts set up later, the ICC has been instituted as the first and only permanent and universal criminal court. The ICC is designed for a more just world, a world of peace and human rights. The ICC prosecutes and tries individuals for their personal criminal responsibility, unlike the International Court of Justice, ICJ, which adjudicates cases involving states and international organizations. However, the ICC is not yet universal as it should be. In order to achieve a real universality, we need and call for universal ratification of the Rome Statute. In my view, its material jurisdiction should be extended to ecocide or environmental crimes. and to economic crimes as well. Hence, I think that our globalized world needs a real universal ICC, symbolizing a global judiciary working, hopefully, side by side with a future world parliament and a future global executive branch, representing all people of the world who are brothers and sisters. During these strange times characterized by the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, this date of 17 July unites all those who wish to support justice, promote victims' rights, and help to prevent crimes that threaten the peace, security, and well-being of the world. This day is thus a reminder of the urgency to all states committed to justice around the world to ensure continued support for international justice system. It confirms the critical role of civil society members in ensuring that ICC states parties live up to
That's it. Thank you very much, sir, for highlighting the importance of the ICC, where you said it stands for the International Criminal Court, and it came about when 120 states adopted a statute in Rome. You also talked about how all the countries that agreed to adopt the statute were accepting the jurisdiction of the ICC with regards to the prosecution of very serious crimes. And the idea was not for the ICC to replace national courts. It was only to enable intervention when a country can't or won't carry out investigations and prosecute perpetrators. Essentially, it was all, your talk was about emphasizing and highlighting the importance of the universality of the ICC and how that can be instrumental in establishing world peace, security, and well-being of the inhabitants of our planet. Thank you very, very much, sir, for that very important video message, very meaningful message. Now I would like to invite our next speaker, Honorable Mr. Justice Antonio Baptista Birao, Deputy Chief Justice, Supreme Court of Mozambique, for his address. Honorable Justice Antonio had attended the International Conference of Chief Justices of the World hosted by City Montessori School in the years 2017, 2018, and 2019. And today we are really honored that he has joined us online on this occasion. Over to you, sir. A very warm welcome.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to express my gratitude to City Montessori School, in particular Dr. Jadi Chigandi, for extending the invitation to Supreme Court of Mozambique for participate in the second international conference on the occasion of the World Day for International Justice. My respectful gratitude to all of your distinguished honorables and excellencies. Since the end of 2019, the world was hit by the new COVID-19 pandemic. This virus is undergoing mutation in form of different variants and with the greater transmission capacity and the lethality. With the pandemic, many countries are facing difficulties to reduce or eliminate contagion in different states, family, states, private institutions, employees, workers, students, adults, young children, regardless of political, economic, and social situation citizens. The present situation affects the world to large extent in many aspects, including justice, peace, and security, and well-being. Our state is responsible to guarantee the protection of millions of children to born, generation, and new generation, ensuring that they fully exercise their rights, freedoms, and guarantees. The court is also responsible for ensuring in our countries. The use of new technology in a more comprehensive and effective way has been another alternative throughout the existing electronic, procedural, and document management system in order to allow for a great form of documents, steps, meetings, and possible to holding for trial earnings. These alternatives impose other challenges that have to do with financial resource, infrastructure, improved accessibility to electronic media, and should to accompanied by the technology of the use of these media and their regulation, as well as legislative reforms in the procedural sphere with the view to simplification of the respective acts in the courts. However, it is necessary to seek alternatives to continuously ensure to stability of justice, peace, security, and well-being of the citizens and the institutions during the after the period of pandemic of COVID-19, which will only be possible by joint efforts with a view to creating and adopting effective policies measures for the reduction and struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic, as well and creation of better socio-economic conditions. We all have an important role as educators to preventing this catastrophe pandemic around of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. Justice Antonio Baptista Birao, for that address which touched upon all the changes that have been ushered into the judicial system with the onset of this COVID pandemic. And the very fact that you highlighted that we must make joint efforts and create effective policies to stop the spread and to ensure the path of justice in order to make sure that speedy redressal of problems takes place. And the way you spoke that although we looked at alternatives, but those alternatives also ended up creating a lot of problems, but still we had to fight those and put these measures in place in order to fight against this catastrophe. Thank you, sir, for that insight into how things have changed for everyone at every level. And now I would like to hand over to Mr. Sandeep to invite the last speaker for this session. Mr. Sandeep, the mic is all yours.
Thank you so much, Birao, for the honors. The next speaker is Honorable Mr. Justice B.J. Odoki, former Chief Justice of Uganda, who has been the Chief Justice of Uganda for the longest years. starting from 2001 to 2030. He has been a great supporter to our Chief Justice's conference that we organize every year, and we have started organizing this conference in the 2001, and he has been the Chief Justice of Uganda since 2001. He is a very powerful judiciary dignitary of African continent, and he also attended our last conference online. He is also the Vice President of the African Development, and he is also writing the Constitution of the African Union. So he is a very big judicial authority of the world, and he is very kind that he accepts our invitation in one attempt. So I invite Most Honorable Justice B.J. Odoki on this August gathering to please bless us with your inspiring words. Honorable Mr. Justice B.J. Odoki. We are waiting for you, sir. I'm not able to see Honorable Justice B.J. Odoki on the screen. So he is the last speaker of this session. One more, two more. Okay. So there are two more speakers in this session. So I request Shivra Padhya ma'am and Veera Hajela ma'am to please proceed further, and we can wait for Justice B.J. Odoki to join.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep. And I'd now like to request President City Montessori School and Managing Director, Professor Geeta Gandhi Kingdon, to introduce our next speaker.
Is ma'am there?
Geeta ma'am, is she there?
Ma'am, I am here, but I do not have the latest thing in front of me. Sorry.
Not a problem, ma'am. Our next speaker now is Honorable Mr. Justice Adil Umar Sharif.
Oh, I see.
Deputy Chief Justice, Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt. Justice Sharif is very much a member of the City Montessori School family, and he has been attending the conference of the Chief Justices hosted by City Montessori School ever since the year 2007, regularly ever since until the last conference that he attended online in the year 2020. Today, yet again, it's our privilege and honor to have you, sir, for this conference.
Now that I know that it's Dr. Justice Adil Umar Sharif, I would like to, if I may, add my own few words of introduction. And I'd like to mention that Honorable Mr. Justice Adil Umar Sharif, Deputy Chief Justice of the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt, has attended our Conference of Chief Justices of the World personally in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. And again in 2020, he attended the conference online. So we can say that Dr. Adil Umar Sharif has been one of the staunchest supporters of the international conferences of Chief Justices of the world, the annual conferences. And his support has meant a great deal to us because it gives us the courage to continue to do these conferences every year. It helps us to realize that what we do is found by him and other attendees who come and attend it year after year to be of some significance, to be meaningful. So that is a great source of empowerment for us in doing this. And he legitimizes our conference. He handholds us. He provides accompaniment. He advises us, and altogether he is a great fortifying factor behind this conference. He is a distinguished visiting professor of law at the Dedman School of Law, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, USA. Throughout his career, he has been affiliated with a number of academic institutions, including the Human Rights Law Center at the College of Law, DePaul University in Chicago, the Human Rights Center of the University of Essex, UK, the Federal Judicial Center in Washington, D.C., the Faculty of Law at McGill University in Montreal, Quebec in Canada, and at other institutions of higher education around the world. And let me just also mention that it is not just combining eminence in, preeminence in the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt, one of the greatest countries in the world, but also his effort to help with the edification, the education, if you like, of the judiciary, the lower level judiciaries, in not only in Egypt, but also more widely throughout the Middle East. And most lately, his efforts to bring the African judicial systems together through a conference that he and the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt organize now annually. And the latest event was held in June this year. Through the medium of this conference, bringing together the chief justices of all the African countries to think about common issues that affect judicial jurisdictions throughout Africa. Also, the whole movement spawned by him to try and digitalize the cases at all the courts in the African nations. There are many, many achievements that he has, but these are some few that I wanted to mention. And I also wanted to mention that he has brought with him, in 2016, he brought the then Chief Justice of the Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt, Mr. Justice Abdul Wahab Abdul Razak. Then in 2018, he brought with him Most Honorable Justice Dr. Hanafi El Gibali, Chief Justice of Supreme Constitutional Court of Egypt in 2018. And in 2019, the Honorable Chief Justice of Egypt at that time, Justice Saeed Mari. And these people have gone on to occupy greater positions of authority in the country lately. So it's a great honor to have Honorable Mr. Justice Sharif with us again. Thank you so much, sir, for joining, and we look forward very much to hearing you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
It would have been an honor and privilege to hear Honorable Justice Sharif in this gathering, but I received a message from Justice Sharif that due to some emergency, he has to leave this meeting and he is busy with some other official affairs. So we can proceed further and inviting the next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Saddiq. And let me take this opportunity to invite Mr. Jake Kim from HWPL, South Korea, and Mr. Shishir would please do the introductions.
Thank you. Our friend, Mr. Jake Kim, is the director of WARP. WARP stands for World Alliance for Religions for Peace. And he is basically coordinating with the religious heads from around the world and is dedicated for the cause of world unity and world peace. He has taken over the WARP office very recently, and he is the one who has been holding a lot of international conferences online on behalf of HWPL South Korea. So welcome, Mr. Jake Kim. We would love to listen to you now. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, dear all, and respectable Dr. Jagdish Gandhi and distinguished guests, and especially members of CMS, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to have participated in this conference and very honored to be able to address all of you today. This second online international conference on the occasions of World Day for International Justice is very important in that it gives us an opportunity to address many of the challenges confronting our world: peace, security, development, and the protection of women, children, and our environment also. We greatly appreciate the commitment of the founder, Dr. Jagdish Gandhi, and the marvelous contributions made by our CMS teachers, students, and staff for the peacemaking event. Thank you. And in order to achieve justice, peace, and security, also well-being of the world during the pandemic, all religious leaders and NGOs workers gather for a common goal these days. Each of us has to rise above our self-interest and think and act as members of one global community. We need to be open-minded and not be locked into a narrow view and crave the ability to become independent thinkers. We need to respect all religion of the world, realizing the importance of making a collaborated effort to achieve the common goal toward peace. These are different ideologies that exist among religions. We need to be open-minded and make efforts to realize the truth and peace through the truthworthy scripture rather than believing in blind faith. We must study other scriptures and find relevant openings and pathway to make changes through the most trustworthy scriptures. The CMS is taking defense in evidence to solve the fundamental cases of conflicts before the occurrence of war. The, the cause of the conflicts arise when there are no common standards of practice established among religious groups concerning what is right and wrong. The CMS mission is to come to a common standard of human values which all beings can practice and live together in the harmonious world. This is universal love that can transform our lives, giving the world duty, joy, beauty, and meaning, and love to all being equally without discrimination. To make truth of the purpose, we should be not think that our religion is the best by believing without any proof unconditional. The most trustworthy scripture would be the one that has a most reliable content reasonable. Therefore, we should be studying, studying other scripture as well to find the truth. The CMS should be highly commended for their painstaking efforts taken to bring peace to all humankind. The commitment they offer to World Peace Project is unimaginable. They have involved youth group leaders, women group leaders, religious leaders, as well as universities, politicians, and lawyers for the peace activities. I have seen their invaluable promise and service since 2015, and I am so glad to be respectable in this very honorable mission. We are very happy to have participated in these peace activities and would like to give our full-fist support to HWPR and CMS missions in the future. So I wish we all could extend this spirit of world peace further and generate a stronger and powerful commitment through love and compassion in order to create harmony in the world. Let us work together with a free and open-minded view so that we can work together for the common good and for the betterment of the humankind. And God bless you all happy and peaceful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. J. Kim, for highlighting those very, very important points, especially the understanding you said we need to generate about what is right and what is wrong, and appreciating the efforts of City Montessori schools for setting up common standards for a just world that is free of discrimination and has unconditional acceptance, and reiterating right at the end that we must come together to work for the common good of all humanity. Thank you so much for highlighting those very important and relevant points in these troubled times. Uh, I would request Mr. Shishir now to please invite the next speaker and uh, introduce him to the larger gathering.
Thank you. Our good friend and an eminent professor from Russia, Professor Alexander Chumakov, who is presently professor at the Lomonosov Moscow State University in Moscow. And I would like to mention here, when our respected founder manager, Dr. Jagdish Gandhiji, went to Russia to receive an honorary doctorate degree in 2009, it was Professor Chumakov who welcomed him and invited him in the capacity of the being the vice president of the Russian Philosophical Society. It's a very prominent society in Russia. He invited him there, and he also invited him to the Moscow State University, and Dr. Jagdish Gandhiji gave lectures over there. So we are very thankful, and he has come to India, I believe, 3 times here at our conference. So, and he has written many eminent journals on globalization, and especially the global society as of now. We look forward to hearing Professor Alexander Chumakov now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shishir. Dear colleagues and students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor for me to speak at the international conference organized by such a unique, world-famous school. Tomorrow, the matter concerns an extremely important topic. The coronavirus pandemic has affected the interest of the entire world community and has drawn close attention to security issue and relations between countries and peoples in the global world. Against this background, there has been a lot of talking about the nature and causes of the appearance of the coronavirus. And in most cases, all this is associated with globalization, its role and significance in the current situation. And this is correct because no one can ignore the connections between coronavirus and globalization. In this regard, we know that epidemics and global processes are centuries-old satellites of mankind. Then how is these connections manifested? To begin with, globalization creates, initiates, and aggravates various problems of the same planetary scale, which are called global. They are called so because they affect the interests of all people on the planet. And the coronavirus pandemic is one such problem. With the release of mankind to the global level, namely from the era of the great geographical discoveries, epidemics were able to develop into global problems. Does this mean that all previous pandemics were not global? Yes, that's exactly it. Until the beginning of the 20th century, health problems in general and all kinds of pandemics in particular did not go beyond the regional scale. But in the 20th century, various spheres of public life and above all economics and politics are fully becoming a global phenomenon. They closely link all countries and peoples into one integral system which we now call the world community or a single humanity. Suffice it to say that over the past 100 years, the population of our planet has grown from 1.85 to almost 8 billion people. That is increased by more than 40 times. But what has practically not changed is that each country found itself alone in the face of universal dangers. In addition, there is a reason to raise the question of the artificial nature of the modern coronavirus and even a rehearsal of biological warfare. But as before, most national governments today don't act in unison, but independently each of each other. As this global action to tackle climate change, countries' responses to the pandemic remains largely fragmented and ineffective. What lessons and conclusions can be drawn from these? First of all, we need to agree that we live in the conditions of globalization which we cannot abolish, but we can and must fight against its negative consequences and take advantage of its many benefits. We can do this because our lives, including health, care, and the states of the environment, depend on appropriate policies and people's behavior. Then the main lessons that follows from the current situation is that both individual countries and humanity as a whole need to take the modern global world with all seriousness and knowledge. At the same time, we must adequately assess our limited possibilities to change this world at our will and direct our efforts to solving the most pressing and primary problems, eliminating war and preserving peace or the planet on the planet, overcoming poverty and caring for people's health, ensuring the availability of education, etc. Another conclusions is that since the global pandemic is closely related to the other global problems, the exacerbation of one of these problems directly or indirectly exacerbates others. Thus, that means that in addition to the coronavirus, humanity is threatened by many other and real dangers associated with the coronavirus. But we have not crossed a dangerous line yet. And the best things that can be done in such a situation is not to lose optimism and to look for acceptable solutions. In such a situation, which is largely characterized by uncertainty, the main thing is not to take abrupt, ill-considered steps at all levels, seek joint solution and make compromises. Our planet has become too small, and as events similar to social unrest in the United States show, one rash action can create a chain reaction of large-scale destructive consequences. In other words, we are talking about a policy of pragmatism, a policy of small steps towards living together on our common planet. And since today, great hopes in terms of overcoming pressing problems are pinned on the achievements of medicine and in general on the information technology revolution, it is important to emphasize that even the most advanced technologies will not solve such problems by themselves. Medicine and modern technology ultimately turn out to be as natural as, for example, science or technology. They carry as a positive, not negative content, and acquire it only depending on how, under what circumstances, and for what purposes they are used. In other words, the point of reference and the criterion on progress in all respects is still a person. Thus, no matter what hopes would be pinned on progress and achievements in the development of science, technology, or modern medicine, real progress should be primarily in the development of society itself and its culture. In conclusion, I would like to quote the words of the famous Russian poet, Nobel Prize Nobel Prize laureate Joseph Brodsky, who said, "The only thing that needs to be done is to create such mechanisms that would protect one person from another." This is the main task. Creation of a legal system that would prevent the possibility of harm by one person to another. The main goal of humanity is to guarantee security to the majority and ideally to everyone, to create a system of mutual protection of everyone from everyone. This is the meaning and purpose of the existence of society. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Chubako. Firstly, we are very thankful to you that you have joined this session right from the beginning. We are very thankful that in your speech, you brought to our attention that humanity as a whole must converge its thoughts and energies to the most pressing issues and the challenges of the time during the pandemic, and must focus on health and education for all. You also quoted Nobel laureate from Russia, Joseph Brodsky, saying that the world needs to evolve such a justice system which should ensure security for humanity. So we are very thankful to you, sir, and we are very honored that a person of your eminence has enlightened us with your thoughts, and we look forward to welcoming you once again in our future conferences as well. Well, now we are moving to another participant from Russia. She is also here. Though she is on a vacation, This is Miss Nina Goncharova. She heads one of the largest networks, peace networks, that she has created over the years. And she recently organized a big conference, and it was like a marathon conference, 72 hours conference non-stop across all the continents. People kept on joining her. She lives in Siberia, which is the northernmost part of Russia, you know. But at present, she is on vacation and in the famous Krumka Valley, which is in the southern Russian subcontinent, and it's just north of Mongolia and near to the beautiful Lake Baikal, which is the largest freshwater lake in the world. So thank you for sparing so much of your time, and she has already sent us a video. She's also here live with us. So we'd like to play the video of her speech first. In case she wants to say something, then she is welcome. Thank you so much.
Dear Mr. Jagdish Gandhi, Shishir Srivastava, and all beloved humans, thinking about justice, a safe world, and all the things provided in this theme, I decided to tell you that I believe in you, noble, courageous, wonderful men who are capable to open a new page of humanity. And I will surprise you. Pantomime, pantomime is needed. Why? I agree with Federico Mayor, who answered this question. He said, it is because we are living a way that is opposite precisely to what we must do. So we must follow the right path. And what happens now is like this. Imagine when you were babies, before you were born, it was totally a crisis. No air, no food, no space, nothing. You must feel that this is the end. But the baby goes through difficulties, and what does he find? He finds that lots of love, lots of air, lots of milk, lots of everything when you're in happy life. And now the question. Can we be happy in the world of aggression, wars, conflicts? No. We are to make this incredible transition from force into peace. That's why I invite you to make this transformation, to consciously take part in this transition, and to manifest to the world that a new world does exist already. You're welcome to take part in the Day Out of Time online event, where the planetary theme of the transition will be manifested and the new way of life will be manifested. So thank you. I love all of you and wish you all the best. Nina Goncharova from Russia, Siberia.
Thank you so much, Nina, for sharing your beautiful thoughts, and we really value them. And Nina believes that Mother Earth is alive and she takes care of all of those who take care of her. So she loves to live in the nature, and that's why she has been living in Siberia amidst nature for most of the time of her life. I can see Mr. Alan Ware, who was supposed to join us in the very next session. He's here with us. I would just like to apprise him that we'll continue with the same link, but your speech will be precisely 1 hour, 50 minutes from now. So I hand it over to the master of the ceremony now, Ms. Veera Hajela and Mr. Prabhupada, to proceed further. Thank you.
So thank you very much, all the distinguished participants, for making this session a grand success. I would like to especially thank the Honorable Chief Justice of Bosnia and Herzegovina for very kindly nominating Justice Mirsada Dinzindo to attend this conference. And the name of the Chief Justice of Bosnia and Herzegovina is Mr. Ranko Debevec. Thank you so much, sir, for doing the honors. I would like to thank Honorable Madam Chief Justice of Kyrgyzstan, Ms. Justice Anne Bakirova, who has very kindly nominated Justice Almaz Salum Bekovic to attend this conference on her behalf. I would like to thank Most Honorable Justice A. Mindua, who was the most appropriate and suitable for today's show because World Day for International Justice is being celebrated all over the world on 17th July in order to strengthen the International Criminal Court. I would like to personally thank Honorable Chief Justice of Mozambique, Mr. Adelino Muchunga, for very kindly nominating Deputy Chief Justice of Mozambique, Antonio Barry, for this conference. I would like to thank the prominent figure of judiciary from Africa, Honorable Dr. Justice B.J. Odoki, and another very prominent figure of Africa, Honorable Justice A.O. Sheriff, for making this session a grand success, though we could not have the speeches of Justice Sheriff because he had some emergency and due to some unforeseen circumstances, Justice Odoki could not join this gathering. I would also like to thank the CMS management for their great support, Dr. Jagdish Gandhi ji, Srimati Bharti Gandhi ji, President Geeta Gandhi ji, and Chief Strategy Officer Roshan Gandhi ji for their inspiration, motivation, and guidance for organizing this conference. I would like to thank our colleague Mr. Shishir Shrivastava and Mr. Anru Singh, the moderators respected Veera Hajela ma'am and Shipra Upadhyay ma'am, the team of Mr. R.K. Singh, who has done magnificent job day and night in order to manage this conference online. Hats off to Mr. R.K. Singh and entire CMS family who has made their contribution, whether directly or indirectly, in making this conference a grand success. So thank you very much for this session, and we would have another session starting from 5:30 to 7:30 as per Indian Standard Time. Those who want to really interested and watch that session are most welcome to join in that session. Veera ma'am, could you?
Thank you. It's been an enlightening session. Looking forward to the next session, which will begin at 5:30 p.m. IST. Thank you to everybody, each and every one, for being here. Thank you very much.
यहाँ 5:30 to here it is 5:30 to 7:30.
क्लोज डाउन कर दीजिए, क्लोज कर दीजिए.
उनको बता दीजिए.
You can join at 5:30
for the next session.
The next session is at 5:30 p.m. 1 hour and 45 minutes from now. Thank you.
Record